Been a privilege to coach them. You know, that I am so thankful that I get to ride with them because they're resilient, like they're tough-minded. They remind me of those teams.
Welcome, World Hoop fam, to another deep dive into the whirlwind world of basketball. This week, we're dissecting a story that has sent shockwaves through the entire WNBA, a narrative so wild it feels ripped from a Hollywood script.
Quietly to feel like I should be able to just live.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's like everybody's always watching your every move, no matter what you're doing.
But trust me, it's all too real. We're talking about the recent WNBA All-Star Game in Indianapolis, an event that was supposed to be the league's grand coronation, a celebration of unprecedented growth and a new era. Instead, it became a glaring, painful expose of its underlying vulnerabilities, a financial train wreck, and a symbol of a growing disconnect between the league's leadership and its most vital asset, the fans. Get ready for the full story, a dramatic saga of hype injury, plummeting ticket sales.
I think it's just life. Everybody goes through some of the same stuff that I've gone through, and a lot of people go through a lot worse.
And a fan boycott that delivered a brutal message. Indianapolis had pulled out all the stops. For months, the city buzzed with anticipation, preparing for what was hyped as the biggest WNBA weekend in history. They erected a colossal 34-story banner of Caitlin Clark on the JW Marriott, an astonishing 113,000 square feet, proclaiming from downtown in my town. It was the largest banner ever on that iconic building, surpassing even the legendary NCAA tournament bracket in 2021. Replica All-Star courts graced the airport. Local businesses stocked up on inventory and hired extra staff, dreaming of a tourism boom. Gainbridge Fieldhouse, the Indiana Fever's home, had sold out within hours when tickets first went on sale. The get-in price soared to an eye-watering $121, with average resale tickets fetching $262 and prime seats demanding thousands, the highest in WNBA All-Star history, according to TickPick. The stage was meticulously set for Caitlin Clark's triumph on her adopted home court, a testament to her undeniable, transformative impact on the league. The energy was electric, a collective anticipation for a new chapter in women's basketball history. Then, disaster struck. On July 17th, the bombshell dropped. Caitlin Clark would miss both the three-point contest and the All-Star game due to a groin injury she aggravated in a recent game against the Connecticut Sun. The news hit social media, and you could almost feel the collective gasp, followed by the immediate, brutal collapse of the market. Those $262 average prices? They crashed to a shocking $64 within hours of the news breaking. That's a staggering 75% plunge in value. Sellers went into full-blown panic mode, desperately trying to offload tickets at massive losses. The get-in price plummeted from $121 to around $65, and even at those rock-bottom prices, buyers were nowhere to be found. This wasn't a gradual decline over days. This was a financial catastrophe unfolding in real time, fueled by the undeniable truth. Without Caitlin Clark, a significant portion of the audience simply vanished. Fans who had meticulously planned trips, booked flights, and reserved hotels solely to witness Clark play in Indianapolis felt betrayed.
And that's Lexi. I mean, she's always working her tail off on the defensive end, doing all the little things that it takes to position us for success.
They started selling off their tickets, sending a clear message. I made accommodations solely to get to Indiana to watch Caitlin Clark. She's injured. I have no interest in that anymore. This devastating Caitlin Clark effect wasn't entirely new, but never had it been so stark or widespread. Earlier in the season, when Clark missed regular season games with a quad strain, road game ticket prices dropped significantly. A 47% decrease for the Washington game and an astonishing 71% for the highly anticipated Chicago matchup. But those were regular season games. This was the All-Star game in her hometown, the showcase event of the year, and the crash was unprecedented. It wasn't just the on-court product that suffered. The entire weekend's economic ecosystem felt the fallout. Gainbridge Fieldhouse, a venue that had enjoyed sellouts for nearly 2 years of Fever games, was now staring at an embarrassing array of empty seats for what was supposed to be the biggest basketball weekend Indianapolis had hosted since the NBA All-Star Game. Vendors who had invested thousands in all-star merchandise, restaurants, and hotels that had anticipated record crowds suddenly faced a wave of cancellations and massive losses. The economic ripple effect spread through downtown Indianapolis, a painful testament to how much the league's recent growth hinges on one player. When other star players get injured, ticket prices don't crater like this. The market was screaming. Without Clark, the All-Star Game wasn't worth attending. It exposed a truth the league desperately didn't want to admit. Their entire record-breaking season was built precariously around one player. Without her, all those attendance records and revenue milestones suddenly looked a lot less impressive. But how did we reach this point, where the WNBA's biggest star is sidelined on her biggest stage? Clark's groin injury didn't just appear out of nowhere. This was a predictable, almost inevitable outcome of months of escalating physical play that referees consistently refused to call. Opposing players had figured it out. They could grab, shove, and hammer Clark without consequences, and the refs would just keep swallowing their whistles. It created an environment where targeting Clark became a legitimate and often effective strategy for opposing teams. FIBA coach Stephanie White has been a vocal critic of this officiating double standard all season, pointing out the level of physicality allowed against Clark that other players simply don't face. She wasn't being dramatic. She was watching her star player get systematically beaten up game after game while officials looked the other way. The Washington Post even highlighted the chronically lousy second-rate officiating that has turned WNBA games into ugly physical contests, sarcastically suggesting the league change its logo to a bruise and its motto to no call. This isn't hyperbole. It's what fans witnessed every single night. Teams hooking and hammering Clark, grabbing her arms, shoving her off screens, fouling her on drives, all with zero calls. This created a dangerous culture. In sports history, leagues typically protect their biggest draws. But Clark? She was getting crushed, while refs seemingly forgot their job description. The numbers are chilling. 57 head and neck injuries in the past 2.5 seasons, with guards and small forwards like Clark disproportionately affected. This isn't normal wear and tear. It's a pattern of dangerous play being allowed to continue. WNBA legend Lisa Leslie, who battled her own groin injury in 2006, knows the brutal reality Clark faces. She warned that these injuries can linger for months, even years. This wasn't bad luck. It was a direct, predictable outcome of a league that refuses to protect its most valuable asset. Every uncalled grab, every ignored shove, every foul that went without a whistle built up to this devastating moment, costing the WNBA millions in revenue and exposing their complete failure to manage the game and protect their players. When your biggest star gets injured because you won't protect her, don't be surprised when fans stop showing up. As fans organized boycotts and ticket sales crashed in real time, all eyes turned to Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. This was her moment to show real leadership, to address the officiating problems that directly led to Clark's injury and the subsequent financial fallout. Instead, she delivered the kind of sanitized corporate response that only served to fuel fan anger. When pressed about the refereeing issues, Engelbert offered a typical executive non-answer, calling a meeting with over 40 players and league stakeholders productive and constructive, emphasizing shared goals while completely sidestepping the core problem. Fans didn't want to hear about productive meetings. They wanted accountability for the refs who allowed Clark to be beaten up all season. They wanted concrete changes to protect players like Clark. They wanted someone to admit that letting opposing teams target your biggest star is bad for business. Instead, they got corporate speak about consistent officiating and independent evaluations, vague promises that ignored the financial damage unfolding in real time across Indianapolis. While ticket prices plummeted and businesses faced massive losses, Engelbert talked about maintaining team profitability and constructive dialogue. The disconnect was stunning. Fans were voting with their wallets, and she acted as if everything was business as usual. Her failure to directly address the officiating crisis only made the boycott worse. The game itself became a painful, live reminder of what happens when you don't protect your stars and you ignore your fan base. Empty seats dotted Gamebridge Fieldhouse. The energy was flat and the basketball was, frankly, terrible. This was supposed to be the showcase event of the season, but it felt more like a glorified practice scrimmage that nobody cared about. The four-point shot gimmick made everything worse, turning the game into what one source called a glorified layup line, with players jacking up shots from way behind the arc. The lack of defense was embarrassing. Nobody was trying, nobody was competing, and the whole thing morphed into an unwatchable mess that alienated the fans who actually tune in for real basketball. You know what became a bigger story than the actual game? The New York Liberties sending their mascot to recruit Clark during All-Star Weekend. Think about that for a second. A team mascot making recruitment pitches generated more buzz than the actual All-Star game. The Liberties' aggressive, almost theatrical pursuit of Clark showed they understood something the league seemed to have forgotten: how to treat a prized possession. Their actions, whether intentional or not, completely overshadowed everything happening on the court. This All-Star disaster was the WNBA's first real test without Caitlin Clark, and it failed spectacularly. The contrast was stark compared to regular season games, where her presence electrifies arenas and generates unprecedented excitement. Without her drawing power, the All-Star game exposed how much the league, in its current iteration, depends on one player to generate widespread interest. The broader implications are massive. The Clark effect isn't just about one player putting up stats or selling tickets. It's about the entire future of women's basketball and whether the league can sustain the momentum they've built this season. This All-Star catastrophe proved, unequivocally, they cannot. Fans voting with their wallets sent a message the league can no longer ignore. The empty seats, the crashed ticket prices, the overwhelming negative reviews weren't just about missing one player. They were about a fundamental disconnect between what fans want: competitive, fairly officiated basketball with protected stars, and what the WNBA is delivering: